I'm Jennifer Saavedra, and you're listening to Radio DTE. Senior down-to-earth editor Latha Jishnu discusses her column, It's Still Open Season for Biopiracy, on how benefit-sharing rules are affecting the world's genetic resources.
So let me give you an example. Just a couple of months back, Nestle, which is the world's largest food company, was accused of biopiracy because after it applied for a couple of patents based on two plants that are found in South Africa. Now, this is a contested case because they took these two plants, rooibos and honey bush, which are commonly used in South Africa to make tea. So a Nestle subsidiary was exporting all this to the company in Europe, and they were using the plant extracts to make cosmetics to treat hair and skin conditions. So Nestle then decided that they would apply for 4 patents using rooibos because that has an anti-inflammatory property. But now what activists like, there are organizations like Natural Justice and the Berne Declaration, which keeps close tabs on this. So they said Nestle had never received any permission to use rooibos and honeybush in this way. Now the problem is, under the CBD, that's the Convention on Biodiversity, which is an agreement signed by about 193 countries, countries have sovereign rights over their biodiversity, and anybody who uses it, whether inside the country or outside, has to take prior informed consent of the community. And while this Nestle dispute is going to take a while to be settled, there are two interesting aspects to this. The people in South Africa who were supplying these plants to Nestle said, if they were exporting, we are exporting rooibos to make tea, then you don't need a permit. But if they were going to use it for research, then the suppliers would need a permit and bioprospecting licenses, etc., etc. Now, this case illustrates the whole problem with biodiversity. And this is what is meant by access and benefit sharing. Developing countries says all these companies, these usually, it's multinationals, have all the access, but there's no such thing as benefit sharing.
So they don't share in any of the profits?
Yeah.
So now, wouldn't also the company that's supplying these plants to Nestle, can't they be liable as well?
Yeah, that's where this whole, it's such a gray area because the suppliers will say that we just are supplying it to make tea and there's no problem with using it to make tea. And Nestle says their subsidiary, Nestec, has done a lot of research and they are entitled to draw a patent on all these products.
What is the Convention on Biological Diversity? What's its mission?
It has 3 objectives: conservation, sustainable use of natural resources, and benefit sharing. What it has is very good principle: balance the right of the countries which have these resources to share in the benefits, and the right of the countries which have the technology to make products from these countries, from these resources. There should be equal sharing. So the CBD says you should provide access and also provide benefit sharing, but that's not the way it's working out.
So how is it giving primacy to the interest of private companies?
So it's not really that the CBD gives rights to companies to exploit the biodiversity of any country. It's just that there aren't enough laws in place. Individual countries have to put in the law to protect their own resources. Many countries have not done it.
Okay, so the CBD meeting scheduled for October 2010 in Nagoya will deal with how does the supplying country, how is it going to be able to benefit from this sort of sharing, this genetic sharing?
Yes.
And what do you think?
Yes.
But do you think that's a likelihood? Because in your column it seems like the CBD has other interests. or at least that it's going in a way that will benefit, just that will give access and no benefit?
See, now the developing countries have become pretty smart about this. That's why it is taking so long. When I wrote the column, they were supposed to have finalized it 6 months earlier. In January, they were supposed to have finalized everything, but the bargaining is so tough. The nitty-gritty of formulating these rules is very complex. So they keep meeting time and again to sort out the major bone of contention. How do we resolve this? That there is equitable sharing. I think the word equitable is very difficult in any international treaty, and they're going to have a tough time. So since the major issues are still outstanding, they're going to have another meeting in September, which is not scheduled, to iron out the differences.